Hey, what's up, you guys? So this is opening 038, which is basically the 38th opening that I'd like to share with you. This opening, I'm going to name it as Italian Variation Opening. This particular sequence is basically an extension of the Italian opening in opening 037, actually, even though this hasn't really been officially named that way. But there are a couple of online players that actually play this line really, really well. And this particular line I would like to share with you tends to give rise to counterintuitive situations for white. So it could actually be a useful weapon for you to actually make use of it. So let's start off the sequence with f5 and basically, of course, the usual Italian opening. You jump into e3 and you just follow up with the e3 move followed by the f3, and then of course c6 being the usual book move, and followed by f6, which is typical for white to actually know this particular variation because you want to control this line. So once white jumps into f6, you go to g5 to cut back into the center axis to try to capture and wrestle for the control of the e5 disc. In order to probably jump to c3 in the future, but over here the best move is actually g6. So usually finishing that sequence, the typical response is actually to try to remain in the center 16, but instead over here, this particular variation actually chips off diagonally to e7. So this opening actually gives rise to a potential counterintuitive sequence for white towards the back end of this. So it could actually turn out to be pretty challenging for white to play. So the typical sequence that will follow is white, black, and white going for the best move over here, and black, instead of going for this one, okay, maybe black, you can go for this one, and white goes for the best move over here, and black basically jumps in over here, and white goes for c5, which is fairly predictable. But over here, instead of black just taking a simple b4 sequence, you actually jump into g4, which then becomes somewhat counterintuitive for white to actually select probably e8 or c7 in response. The typical response of such a shape is for white to actually respond to this penetration that black just did by either scraping maybe or just chipping to the side and maintaining the edge by playing to h5, or just defending the side by playing to g3. So having such a sequence could potentially be quite powerful to actually throw your opponent off guard, perhaps, and actually establish an early advantage. So probably white wouldn't really want to jump into this intuitively because you give black a balance edge, and at the same time, black can also get one more tempo over here to g8. And of course, the hesitation possibly for white to play this move is playing white to c7 generally seems to give black a very easy centralizing move that usually you are not taught to actually think of that intuitively. So this particular variation could actually be pretty tricky for white to play against. So I'll actually recommend this to black and players who are advanced level and above to actually try for this particular sequence, perhaps. Because some of these moves could be actually counterintuitive, and that particular sequence is hard to remember. So on that note, thank you very much for watching this video, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.